Right, let's have a little look at our diagram. You know, you're familiar with this already. We've had a look at this quite a few times in theory, but I still think there's a sticking point in everybody really remembering the different parts of the structure of the skin and scalp and what their functions are. So we're just going to do like a little revisit, working around the diagram, see if you can remember some of the things we've got here. So just giving you a moment just to think about what this arrow here, what this would represent in our diagram. Hair shaft. Okay, so this is our hair shaft that grows out of this area here. God, if you can remember what that is called, that's the hair follicle. Remember that hair follicle we've looked at in some of the previous clips can be different shapes. So Asian hair has a very round follicle, Caucasian, European hair is slightly more oval, and African Caribbean hair has more of a kidney shaped follicle for the hair to grow out of. So the shape of the follicle determines the hair type that we're working with. So for the purposes of this diagram, it looks fairly straight. So maybe this is a round follicle that the hair is growing out of. Our hair shaft, remember, is our actual hair that's coming through. So it's got our cuticle, cortex and medulla. Remember, the cuticle is that protective layer. It's protecting the cortex. It also determines porosity, you know, how open or how closed are those cuticles. Doing our porosity test by running the hair from the tips up to the root, we're feeling how rough the surface of the cuticle is. Moving around here to this part of the diagram, we can sort of see here this area looks to me like a muscle, looks like it's something that's quite like a sinew, a muscle. So for us, it's the erector pili muscle. Okay, so we've talked about this before in class. We've talked about maybe how when we get cold, our hair stands on end. So the erector pili muscle on every single hair on our head literally contracts and lifts the hair into more of an erect position. So another hair here nearby and maybe one here. Warm pockets of air would be hopefully trapped in between each of the hairs to try and regulate our body temperature and try and keep us warm. It could be that we were running for our lives from a tiger in the jungle and our hair is going to stand up on end because we're in shock mode. It's fright or flight. So we're going to run for our lives, and that shock mechanism is making the erector pili muscle stand on end. This other area we've got here, which is this sort of squidgy bit either side, we've talked about this a lot. So this is our sebaceous gland. Can you remember what the sebaceous gland secretes? Sebum. So an overproductive